Hi, my name's Matt from Kana Kilistics and Namaste. Today's talk is about 10 signs of why they're not into you. I'll see you after these messages. Hi, welcome back to Kana Kilistics. We're here to learn together and let's grow together. So today, as mentioned, is about 10 signs they're just not into you. Now, this isn't just about relationships. This is incorporated into friendships. So let's start with the first point. Let's jump into it. And also remember, hit that subscribe button. So the first one is they just don't treat you with basic respect. Now, that's a good question. That's a good point. Many times when people are not into you anymore, they find other interests and they just don't show the same kind of process or the same kind of feelings that you have when you first met them, or even as you growing and grow through certain situations. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't love you or they don't care. It sometimes they're just not sharing the same journey that you're on, and it doesn't mean that you need to alter your state in order to match theirs. It's just for the fact that their direction is a lot more different than yours is. Now the signs would be for the fact is that they don't see the same things you do, i.e., if you want to go out and they don't enjoy the things you do, so you may go out for day trips, you may spend time appreciating the arts or so on and so forth. Little things like that. Little things will change. You normally, I always say, just go with your gut. But above all, always have that communication with the individual, just to get the overall and the point whether they are into you or they are not. Because sometimes we can get misconstrued about whether it is just a glitch that they're going through or it may be something a bit more serious. Point two, they don't always involve you in their plans. Now, this is one of the most common ones where they have a plan and you have a plan and they just make all these processes, all these ideas and make arrangements. And again, if it's a partnership or a relationship, they just would just necessarily go ahead and probably include their outer friends or their close friends in their decisions about what they want to do, i.e. they may want to go away for a couple of holidays, or they may just make plans that spend the night out and spending time with you. To be kind of raw, if you both made plans for one evening and or one weekend and then it's changed at the last minute, confront them, speak to them, and see what that's really going and what that's really about. Because normally they're just suddenly, or if in a certain way, or they just are trying to pull back and withdraw. And sometimes they may not just like conflict, so they will just kind of edge away out of the relationship slowly. Now, as I say, there is no concrete way to say this is it, but these are just little signs that they may not be attracted or want to be with you at that time. And out of that, you can obviously grow and find your own path forward, because necessarily we don't have to always stay with that group of friends or that group or that partner or in that kind of situation. So just be aware of that. And when they're making plans and they've laid it all out and they've not informed you of it, and it happens more than 5-6 times, you kind of know. And if it's kind of regular that you guys are normally always share ideas about what you want to do or where you want to go, what your plans are always there, that's necessarily that they pretty much don't take you as too seriously in the relationship they have. The third point is they don't pull their weight. Now, this is a common one I get, and sometimes as friendships and relationships, you seem to be doing all the work and making sure everything's in place. And let's look at relationships. Say if you have a home together, you may be doing everything around the house, but it should be split down the middle. Or for the fact is that You are giving, you seem to be shelling out more than before, or they may be spending more money on their own self than helping you out. Then they know you're struggling. They may just go on, I don't know, they may just disappear for a couple of days or a couple of weeks without telling you. And they may not keep you updated about their movements, so they may just, sometimes they just forget. If they're out for the evening, they could just forget because they're caught in that moment. But if they disappear for like days on end and they don't get in touch with you, they don't care. It's just about what they want, so they just move on and just do what they want. And again, what if they're not thinking of you? Where are they? My thing is, if they're not there, then there's a good indication that they don't want to be there or they shouldn't be there, and you deserve a lot better. The other thing is that when they don't pull the weight, for the fact is that if they know you're struggling and you're having a hard time, say if you're going through some situations, you may have lost your job, you may be having a hard time at work, you may have a hard time with family, and they're just not supporting you, and they seem to brush you off. I always say a good relationship is a communication relationship, and it's built on trust. So that's so important, and that's with friendship and relationship. So if you're in a situation where you seem to be seeing friends all the time, they need to make that effort to see you also. It shouldn't be just a one-way path or one-way road. So point four, they don't seem to contribute and share what they used to. So if you have an idea and you both, it's similar to what I said about pulling your weight. So by this point, where they don't contribute, they're not taking on responsibility in that sense and pulling their weight. Pulling their weight is more for the fact is that they're not physically doing stuff in that sense. They're not upholding principles, ideas, promises, services. Contribution is that they don't financially or they don't emotionally contribute to your relationship, whether it's friendship or whether it's romantic. They don't contribute in the way they used to. Now, the way they do this is for the fact is that you may go to them and they may again fob you off or tell you, you know what, it's just you, or they may just turn around and go, let's talk about it tomorrow, or you just kind of go with your feeling. There's a saying in counseling, we say, in coaching, is that a friend listens to you, a true lover or true friend would hear you. So when someone listens to you, they would listen to you and they go, yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying, yeah, okay, and then that'll be a problem about it. But a true friend hears you, so they will hear your emotions in your voice, and they will interact with you and say, I know how you're feeling. Do you need a hug? How do you want me to be with you at this time? I don't want to overstep the mark. I just want to support you. They contribute. That's what I'm talking about. Contribution, and not pulling their weight. Contribution. They do not contribute the emotional commitment to you on that level. So that's one way of them saying, I'm pulling back, I'm stepping back. And again, address the situation. Don't always treat it as gospel that they pulled away. But remember, if it's consistently happening, no one should be in a relationship or around people that they just don't feel safe or happy with. It's just one of those things. It's just not fair. We've got so much more out there for you. The next point 5, is they always seem to put you down in front of others and all in private. So sometimes people put people down and try and humiliate them. You could say it's their self-esteem, but sometimes they put you down in private when you're there by making you feel like you're beneath you, by calling you names, by insulting you, by making you feel lower than you are. A partner or a friend should be the one that boosts your self-esteem. That's what they're there for, and vice versa. When you've got someone who is in public and they're around family, friends, it's their job in a way to make you feel good about yourself. And sometimes, well, all the time, what they should be doing is making you feel good about yourself. So when they're giving you compliments, not overdoing it, but when they're giving you compliments and they're supporting you and they're showing interest what you're saying and then referencing what you're saying and backing you up in public, that's telling other people that your relationship is strong. And that goes for friendship as well. So when you're backing up your best friend, you stand your ground and you stand, even though you may think they're wrong, but it's down to you also to speak to that individual and say, look, though despite I think you were wrong, I'm always going to back you up. My best mate's always got my back. She's always, whenever anything happens, she's always sides with me, and then she pulls me aside and says, Matt, you've been a muppet and you got it wrong, but we're always there. So she's always been there for me for the last 15 odd years. And the same with my partner. She my fiance, she would always would never let no one speak to me out of turn, and vice versa. Because at the end of the day, for the fact is that you are as good as your relationship, and if you treating that person with disrespect, that's how you are deemed to be, and how you've been, you could say in a way, brought up. Because my mum's always said to me, treat your lady like a queen, but some women need to be treated like queens, and if women are running around with other men and so on and so forth and disrespecting you, then I don't follow that through. I treat you as if you treat me like a king, I'll treat you like a queen. You treat me like a dog or a tramp, I'll treat you like a dog or a tramp. That's just how it is, and that's how people should be. Next point is people try to manipulate your emotions. So that's a really good point, and something is really important you need to keep aware of and recognize. Now, some individuals, what they like to do, as I said before, about making you feel low, what they do is try and say what you're going through is all your fault, when you know that the individual, say for example your partner, has done something, and then you know that they've done it, and then they've said, well, no, you're wrong, and then you've argued, and then they've tried to say, well, you're stupid, what do you know? And it makes you look small about yourself. And they like to do that in front of their children, because they like to show that they have the power in a relationship. When at the end of the day, that is not the right way to treat anybody, making anyone feel lower than themselves, or make them feel low or lost. And when you're emotionally being manipulated, they use you to get something as well. So, for example, they may show and care and spend time with you and want to be with you and go out with you and treat you really nice, and then they go, could you help me with could you help me with that? And it's not necessarily always about money. Sometimes it's about status, or sometimes it's about control, and it's control to get back at others. So this comes in many forms. It's not just about them getting manipulating you for them to get what they want financially. It's about them manipulating you for them to achieve something in the long run. Sometimes there is no general scale. It's all it's all it depends on their intention in that sense. So just be aware of how they're making you feel. If you don't feel right, address it with them. You have a right to turn around and say what your concerns are. Do not turn around and just take it. If you don't feel right, sometimes you may need to be a bit more the investigator. For me, in past relationships, I've had to be the Columbo and be the Sherlock Holmes, and find out find out what's going on in order to find out where they are. I've been kind of fortunate because Spirit normally tells me, but the reality is having proof, and that proof always presents itself. So just again, these are not negative points, these are points just for you to correct them in order to go back on the right rounds. So point 7 is they're no longer physically attracted to you or in a relationship. So this is about relationships. So in a relationship, if they're not, I won't say giving it up, if they're not wanting to have sex, or they're not being intimate, it may be for the fact is that they're just not an intimate person. You would know how it is. But again, both needs need to be met. It's not just a one-way street. Both needs need to be met. And it doesn't mean if they not physically won't have say sex with you that they don't love you. It's for the fact is that they may not be physically attracted to you. I know it sounds a bit strange to say that, but sometimes they just not they can emotionally love somebody but not physically want to be with that person. But in that case, again, contribution, communication. So communication is key, and talking it over for me always seems to solve a lot of things. You know what? Looks fade, personality doesn't. And over a period of time, it becomes I suppose, some form of partnership or cohabitation. So again, the physical relationship, whether you're young or old, is important because it does bring you that little bit closer. One of the big ways to break through it, and I want to do a video on this about intimacy, especially from a spiritual point of view, is the Kama Sutra, is tantric sex that connecting spiritually. When you connect spiritually, it shifts and brings you up to a higher level, and that's when you are intimate. It does help you to move forward within your relationship. And again, say we're looking at a friend, and if you're physically close to a friend and not as in sex, as in spending time with, and they seem to repulse you, or you repulse them, and they just don't want to be around you. Again, address it, but in reality, it's like they're just just not into you in that sense. Point seven, point eight is sorry, they don't listen to what you have to say. It's a really good point, a really very good point. People seem to cut you off when you're talking. When you're making a point, they may give you that look, or may make you feel, again, that goes back to emotion, and belittle you, making you feel lower than what you really are. And again, no one should feel that way. And again, when it comes to see how you feel and listen to what you say, you should be listened to and heard, not just listened to, if that makes sense. Remember what I said before, listening is what friends do, or people just listen. Oh, okay, I hear you. You know, when you get on the bus, you go, oh, can I have X, Y, and Z? And you pay for whatever. The driver hears you. He's not going to go and ask you 24 questions about your life, is he? Or she? So a friend or somebody would listen to you and just give an opinion. And that's what sometimes people do as friendships. And that's why sometimes it struggles. When it comes to relationships, or when it comes to hearing, they hear you. So they would take on board your body, your physical symptoms, your body language, and how your face is, your tone, your eyes, where your eyes are placed, if you're scowling, if you're smiling, all these things your friend or your partner should see and know where you're at. And I can generally normally tell when either a friend or my partner is in a bad way before as they walk in the room, because their face normally tells me what it is. Sometimes some people have it's called a poker face, so they don't show things on their face, their emotions on their face. And again, when you're trying to talk to people about something, because having an emotion and talking about emotions and want to be heard and needed, this goes back to us when we're younger, and it's about our status in of acceptance within family orientation, where we sit within our families and also our siblings, and how our parents view us. And if you're the youngest like I am, and you're constantly trying to get heard, you're just kind of like listened to, and it was like, all right, yeah, Matt. And that can impact on a lot of things as you grow up, and cause you a lot of upset, sometimes with mental health and self-esteem issues and so on. However, it could flip to the other side, where you become so detached from people and not have problems forming relationships, or it could be for the fact is that you're really driven, and then you just really narrow-minded and funneled in your approach and how you do things, and you just abide by people out the way, and you just go for it. For me, when I was growing up, and the youngest of five, So to be heard, especially in the Caribbean families, there's any people out there who from a Caribbean family, you know what I'm talking about, or anyone from a big family who's the youngest will know what I'm saying. To be heard is like shouting up at a tree. So you're trying to shout at the tree and reach the top to reach your parents, for them to hear you amongst all the other noise which is there. It don't help. In my house, we have the survival of the fittest. So you need to make sure that you're prepared and that you are heard. So the louder you get, some people sometimes try and be good at being bad, but when they should be good at being good in order to be heard and seen. So, as I mentioned, if you from a larger family, and as you know, that if you yourself are from a large family, it's about being heard, and that has an impact on other people outside of your relationships that you form as you grow older, and that's the struggle which a lot of people have, and as they go on, some people are okay, um, but by and largely, just be aware that when you're talking to people and then you want to be listened to and heard, that you need to be clear and to the point of what you say. That's when they hear you, and that's when they say that's when they hear you, and that's when they can give common feedback. The reality is, once you say something or you are away more than 20 odd days or a couple months, people have a tendency to see the shift in you. And I'm going to do a video based around cognitive shifts. So being a certain way for a certain amount of months and then doing that change, because I'm going to be doing my process of change, and I want to introduce that into obviously Karnak, for you Karnakarians, in order to move forward. So point 9 is they don't see your point of view. Now this is a good point again, and I'm talking to a lot of people who had these issues who come to me or who struggle at work. They seem to be in some ways two ways. They either, it's called the Sherman tanks, so they go in wanting to be heard and they're quite vocal, and it pushes everyone out the way. But sometimes people just don't listen. Then they go yeah, and then they just put it to the side. So it could work against you. If you're a sniper, I used to be this way, and then you wait for the moment in order to rile people up, and then you pick off certain people and look for their weaknesses. And that goes back to you. I think where I was when I was younger, that's how I used to have to be heard. I had to wait for the quiet times and then go in for detention, kill. Uh, and in that sense, is that if you're not listened to or your point of view is not listened to, that needs to be addressed, because you have a right. You both have rights in a relationship, and if they're not listening to you and are not showing that compassion or that love that should be out there, then this is down to you to turn around and address. And the last point is, they don't treat you as good as others. So, in that sense, sometimes when you're with people or you don't feel needed, you don't feel loved, you are they treat other people more important than you are, and it's not putting you first. It's like making sure that you're okay. So say for example you go to a party and you're with your partner, and then she wanders off and then she doesn't see you for about 3-4 hours. She should be checking up on you, making sure you're having a good time, especially if you go to a place she knows or he knows. The other point is that when you're out with friends as well, if they take you somewhere, my dad always says people like to take you, go, but don't take you back. So they come pick you up at home, but never return you home. Family do, they should do anyway. Or people that love you will watch you go through the door of your house to make sure you're safe. But some people just don't. That's how I used to identify who I could kind of like trust and be around. So I hope that's helped. Leave your comments below, and if you agree or disagree, it'd be nice. Please give it a thumbs up. It helps with what I'm trying to deliver. So I'll see you Karnakarians soon on my next video. Stay blessed and stay safe.